Okay, so today, I haven't done an episode for a while. Today I want to talk about continents. Not the 7 continents scattered around this miraculous and precious planet, but probably the single biggest thing each of you will be thinking just after surgery. Just how long will it take to get my bladder control back? Well, okay, in reality, you're probably thinking, when am I ever going to have sex again? But let's concentrate on reality for a bit. I knew continence myself would be a big deal, so I prepared by buying a range of pads before surgery, ranging from number 1 to number 4 in capacity, and also getting up to speed on my pelvic floor engagement exercises, or Kegels, but that's a term we actually don't use here in Australia. But I thought I'd include it because it's all over the internet. Anyway, these exercises were given to me by a pelvic floor physiotherapist, which hopefully you will have had referred to you by your urologist. I remember when I left surgery the day I got the bloody horrible catheter removed, and I was wearing an adult nappy, or diaper for you Americans. I'd been given a party pack from the surgery of some spare nappies and pads. I ditched those nappies straight away and just stayed with the pads, and absolutely no regrets there. But the first big thing that I did, which I have mentioned before in previous videos, was to start a continence diary. Yep, grim as it sounds. So getting in the rhythm of weighing the pads to the gram around 4 times a day, as well as first thing the next morning. This was to allow me to see how much leakage there'd been during the day and critically overnight. I recorded this in Excel to see if and by how much I was improving, so it gave me a goal. It's simple. You weigh a dry pad to tear it, then measure the pad later on, say after a few hours or whenever you might feel that you've had some leakage. If the difference is 0, you're dry, great. If not, you're leaking. I know from my diary, for example, that a Tina number 1 pad is 12 grams empty, so if it weighed 20 grams, I've leaked 8 ml of urine. Simple. I was happy to keep reusing pads until I was saturated, each to their own. And look, they're cheap. The biggest confidence booster is knowing that you'll be dry overnight. That was my first target, so I was really, really happy when I got to that. So this was done in conjunction with a big push to maintain my exercise levels. I've always cycled a fair bit, and I guess I've considered myself reasonably fit for a fat middle-aged bloke in his early 50s. So it was really important for me to get back on the bike, which took a while because I had a pretty sore ass following the surgery. The surgeon and the pelvic floor physio said it would take 3 months. We'll see about that, I thought. Anyway, I tried to get back on the bike after 2 weeks, which is a huge mistake, really hurt, because it wasn't necessarily the perineal damage, but it was the internal scarring that was very, very painful. Anyway, I did manage a gentle ride, 9 kilometres on the flat after 4 weeks, so that was definitely progress for me. All this time I'd been doing my pelvic floor exercises as well. I'd started to practice these a month before surgery, a few times a day as instructed, and the advice. So I was told also not to recommence pelvic floor exercises until 6 days after surgery, which happened to be the day after the catheter was removed. So I did listen to that, and for once in my life did as I was told. My continence diary told me that I was improving after just a week and a half, which was a real morale booster. I also noted how much alcohol I was drinking, as I worked out pretty soon after surgery that alcohol doesn't help you when you need to hold on. As an example, I happened to be at a wedding 7 weeks after surgery, and at this stage, I hadn't had any booze for 2 months. I just hadn't felt like drinking anything. I wasn't dry, but my bladder control was much better. I was standing up all night at this event and had a few glasses of bubbles and 1 beer, and basically, I just couldn't hold on. I leaked like a sieve and went through my supply of pads pretty quickly. Extremely annoying on a really important night, and obviously potentially very embarrassing. It was all okay in the end, but it really gave me a bit of a stir up. So, big tip number 2. Cut out or significantly reduce the booze. It absolutely affects bladder function. Or if you are going to drink at an event, be prepared and take some heavy duty pads with you. Believe me, you'll thank me. So after 64 days or 9 weeks, my continence diary confirmed that I've been dry for a week. Of course, nothing is so simple, and I found that for the next 6 months or so, there would be the odd dribble or bit of leakage. Nothing visible, but you can certainly sense it when it happens. And when it does, which is typically later in the afternoon, well, my experience anyway, you can try to engage your pelvic floor, you can try and hold on, and you find that you just simply can't. You've got no control, so you leak. Simple as that. Often it's just a few mils, but it's enough to be a pain, and it's just enough for you to need to change your undies. So, and in fact, it still happens even today, 18 months later, once in a blue moon, and I find it happens if I'm really straining hard at, say, gym, or if I'm really tired after a couple of hours of hard karate training, and I feel if I just push and push and push, I do end up leaking just a few drips. So I figure I'm just going to have to accept that if I push too hard doing exercise. But I'm sure they've given my recovery so far that this also will stop in time. So not too concerned about that, and it hasn't proved to be any problem. It's just something I've noticed. Now, I will admit that post-surgery, I was also concentrating on my fitness in a really big way. So I believe fitness fixes everything. You want to sleep better? Get fitter. Want to live longer? Get fitter. Better sex? Get fitter. Not get puff walking upstairs or hills? Get fitter. Want to lose weight? Get fitter. Want to feel more energized each day? Get fitter. I think you can see I'm a bit of a convert. So, added months after surgery, what am I doing? Trying to ride a bike a few days a week. I'm also walking to my local beach a few days a week. I train at karate once a week, and despite myself, my wife's convinced me to go back to gym, which after 20 years break, I actually find I'm really quite enjoying. Now, I do know that's a lot, and finding the time's a challenge, but again, it's all about priority. And what is the real priority? Spending more time in the office, watching reruns of Seinfeld, or recovering from cancer? So that might put it into perspective for you. I'm also getting 6 monthly PSAs, which thankfully are still 0.01, which is the noise floor or the lowest reading of the test. So still cancer-free. Yay. Now, big tip number 3, and the real reason for this video, which I didn't even think about until 13 weeks after surgery. So technically I was already dry by that stage, not using pads, was to stop using caffeine, stop drinking caffeine. Actually, it was my wife's idea, give her credit. We know that caffeine is a naturally occurring stimulant belonging to the xanthine class of chemicals. Actually, it's the most commonly consumed drug in the world. Its scientific name is 1,3,7-trimethylxanthine, and however, what a lot of people don't realise is that caffeine, as well as alcohol, is a stimulant. It's a bladder irritant and it's a diuretic, which means that you get the urge to go to the toilet more and you produce more urine through your kidneys because your body's trying to flush it all away. So all of this is bad. This is collectively referred to medically as OAB, overactive bladder syndrome. Basically, drink lots of caffeine and booze after prostate surgery, wet your pants. Simple as that. You can stop watching the video now. So anyway, caffeine's found in all tea, even green tea in tiny bits. It's certainly in coffee, in chocolate, in energy drinks. Many soft drinks like Coke and Mountain Dew. I think Americans call this stuff soda. Anyway, caffeine was also often added to medications like painkillers, so you look out for the words like extra or plus, which means added caffeine. Caveat emptor, guys. Alcohol is also a bladder stimulant and a diuretic. It contributes equally to overactive bladder. Now, there is one bit of good news in all of this, which is confirmed from studies, it's not just me making this up, is that a small amount of caffeine found in decaffeinated coffee makes no difference and doesn't irritate your bladder, so it doesn't contribute to overactive bladder syndrome. So this is where I'm going with this. So anyway, for what it's worth, this is what I've done. I've given up caffeinated coffee. I still drink tea every day, just one, which has some caffeine, around 7 milligrams, but I've switched to decaffeinated beans in my coffee machine. And you know what? I can't say I miss it one little bit. It tastes absolutely identical, but has none of the drawbacks. Every cafe serves decaf coffee these days. You can buy decaf coffee beans, ground, powdered, everywhere, so there's just no excuse. And the benefits are, I don't irritate my bladder, and I need to wee less, meaning better bladder and continence control, which is absolutely hugely beneficial. I don't get headaches if I miss a morning shot, and I also don't have to worry about finding coffee if I'm away from home. And the other thing is, if I miss a coffee or a tea, it's no big deal because my body's just not expecting it. So I reckon it took me maybe one day, probably a day to acclimatise to not having a strong coffee each morning. I used to drink 2 cups of tea as soon as I got up, and then I'd have a strong coffee maybe at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock each morning. So I've dropped from maybe 300 milligrams of caffeine a day to around 60 milligrams. Has it worked? Absolutely. I found bladder control improved, residual leaks reduced considerably after I stopped having a lot more caffeine. So in summary, guys, the surgery is a big deal and takes a while to recover from. There's no getting around that, but as they say, it's better than the alternative. The catheter sucks, but it is necessary to allow the bladder anastomosis to join to the urethra to heal fully. And if you want much faster recovery from continence, you might want to consider what's worked for me, which is do your pelvic floor exercises, your Kegels, both before and certainly for months after surgery until you're dry. Stop or cut down booze. Stop or cut down caffeine. Work on your fitness. Start with a walk around the block. If it all helps. It all helps. And finally, keep getting your PSA checked to make sure that you stay cancer-free, which is the whole idea. Next episode, I think I'll finally talk about sex. Thanks for joining me on this journey. Thanks for hanging in there. Cheers, guys.